It wasn't calculated, it wasn't polished, and it definitely wasn't what anyone expected from the King of England. In a speech that left millions utterly speechless, the monarch tore apart the royal playbook with a declaration so bold, so unfiltered, that it's being compared to the most radical moments in British royal history. This was not your usual ceremonial address. It wasn't about tradition or formality. No, this was about truth. This was about transformation. What Charles revealed in just a few words didn't just shake the monarchy, it sent tremors through the entire nation. And the fallout? Well, it's already rewriting royal history, splitting public opinion right down the middle and sparking a storm of controversy, admiration, and fear. Now, hold on tight, because once you hear what he said, you won't look at the crown the same way again. It began innocuously enough. A modest room at Clarence House, the Union Jack draped in the background. Charles, seated as composed as ever, his tired eyes betraying the weight of the moment. The media had been told it would be a typical national update. Brief, polished, professional. But what unfolded in the next few minutes could not have been further from the expected. No crown. No scepter. Just the king, alone, looking straight into the camera, and within seconds, he shattered tradition. He didn't begin with national policy, or a familiar speech about the ceremonial duties of the crown. Instead, he opened with a deeply personal reflection, on the loss of his mother, on the evolving role of the monarchy, and on a world that no longer worships the crown, but rather questions it at every turn. And then, in a voice steady but resolute, Charles dropped the bombshell that no one saw coming. The monarchy, as we know it, is being dismantled. He didn't use the word abolish, no, that would have been too radical for some. Instead, he said the monarchy was being transformed. And that transformation was happening now. The royal family, effective immediately, would begin an unprecedented downsizing. No more grand ceremonies, or taxpayer-funded appearances for distant relatives, with no constitutional role. The royal household would be reduced to its barest form, the king, the queen, the direct heir, and their immediate families. Every royal title under review. Every allowance frozen. Every royal expense audited. And that's just the beginning. Then came the twist that sent shockwaves through Buckingham Palace and beyond. Charles announced that he would be personally relinquishing control of multiple royal estates. Balmoral, Sandringham, gone. These iconic estates wouldn't be passed down to William, as many had speculated. No, they would be handed over to national trust programs. They would be converted into public resources, transformed into museums, environmental research centers, and even social housing projects. Charles didn't mince words when he said, "The land must serve the people." This wasn't just a symbolic gesture, it was a philosophy. A deeply uncomfortable truth that Charles admitted to publicly, with a level of raw honesty few could have imagined. In the second half of the speech, he spoke directly to the people. He acknowledged the deepening disconnect between the monarchy and the nation. He confessed that the institution he was born into had failed to adapt, failed to listen, and failed to understand the pain of its own people. And then, to the astonishment of even his harshest critics, he apologized. Not in the flowery, PR-crafted language we've come to expect from royals, but with brutal honesty. "I have heard you," he said. "I have read your criticisms. I have seen the anger, and you are right to feel let down." For a king to say that, it was unprecedented. But Charles wasn't done yet. The moment everyone had been waiting for had finally arrived, the question of succession. Would Charles follow in the footsteps of monarchs before him and cling to the throne until his dying breath? Or would he step aside, leaving William to take on more responsibilities? He did neither. Instead, Charles proposed something that shocked the world, a dual monarchy. In this new, revolutionary system, the crown would not just be a title for the heir. No. From this year forward, Prince William would assume several core roles traditionally reserved only for the reigning monarch. International diplomacy, Commonwealth affairs, domestic outreach. William wouldn't just be the heir apparent anymore. He would be a co-head of state with Charles. Not a symbolic gesture. Not a passing of the baton. No, this was a shared responsibility, born out of necessity, to adapt to the modern world. Charles made it crystal clear, the monarchy could no longer exist in its old form. The world was changing faster than ever before. The monarchy, to survive, had to evolve, or risk becoming irrelevant. In an era of rapid digital communication and growing Republican sentiment, he even referenced the rising number of Britons who now openly question the relevance of the monarchy itself. And instead of defending the crown, Charles did the unthinkable, he agreed with them. Rather than cling to a system that no longer worked, Charles declared that he would rebuild it from the inside out. A monarchy that wasn't just a relic of the past, but one that had real meaning. Real connection. One that served the people, not just the elite. The backlash was instantaneous. Royal traditionalists fumed. Some senior aristocrats reportedly stormed out of private meetings. Politicians demanded urgent briefings. Social media exploded in outrage. Some hailed the king's actions as heroic, others called it a dangerous gamble. Through it all, Charles remained silent, his message clear: this was his decision. His vision for the monarchy. 3 days later, Buckingham Palace confirmed what no one thought was possible. Formal legislation was already in the works to codify the dual monarchy. But that wasn't all. This legislation would strip dozens of royal titles from non-working royals, princesses, dukes, baronesses, gone. No more royal privileges without real constitutional responsibilities. No more free photo ops at taxpayer expense. The monarchy, Charles said, would become a working institution, accountable to the public. And it didn't stop there. A first in royal history, a national survey. An anonymous, open poll, where anyone could voice their opinion on the monarchy's future. The questions were simple but profound. Should the monarchy continue? What should it look like? How should it serve the people? The results? Over 15 million responses. And here's the shocker. 72% of respondents said they supported a modernized monarchy. Only 1% backed the idea of a dual monarchy, and 9% wanted the monarchy abolished completely. But here's the kicker. 92% of respondents said this was the first time they'd ever felt truly heard by the royal family. For Charles, that stat spoke volumes. Behind closed doors, he's been meeting with reformists, economists, even anti-monarchists, not to defend the monarchy, but to understand how to reform it. This isn't just a cosmetic change. This is constitutional surgery. And the surgeon? The king himself. As the weeks pass, more revelations continue to emerge. Prince William is reportedly planning a radical shift in his own duties, with new digital platforms for civic engagement, youth leadership summits, and even a mobile People's Council that will tour the UK year-round. Meanwhile, Charles is scaling back his international travel, focusing on listening, on healing, and on preparing for what could be the final twist in this royal revolution. Sources say Charles is even considering a complete rewrite of the coronation oath, the sacred promise every monarch has made for centuries. The new oath. Not one to God, but to the people. A vow to serve, not just reign. A pledge to unite, not just rule. If this happens, it will mark the end of the monarchy as we know it, and the birth of something entirely new. But the story doesn't end there. Behind the scenes, tensions continue to rise as some members of the royal family voice their discomfort with Charles's radical vision. Princess Anne, a longtime champion of royal tradition, has reportedly had heated conversations with her brother about the direction he's taking. According to sources close to the Princess Royal, she fears that this transformation will irreparably damage the institution's credibility and legacy. Even within Prince William's camp, there's talk of hesitation. While William has publicly supported his father's plans, private meetings suggest that he may have reservations about assuming the co-monarch role. He's reportedly been consulting with his wife, Catherine, who has her own concerns about the future of the monarchy, especially when it comes to how their children, Prince George, Princess Charlotte, and Prince Louis, will be raised in this rapidly changing environment. Yet, despite these growing tensions, the monarch's plan presses forward. And the people? They seem ready for the change. Overwhelmingly, they are embracing the idea of a monarchy that reflects modern values and priorities. But questions linger: will Charles's vision be enough to restore public faith in the monarchy? Or is he leading the institution into uncharted waters that may prove too dangerous to navigate? As the days turn to weeks, the royal family remains in turmoil. The once impenetrable walls of Buckingham Palace now seem like a house of cards, ready to collapse at any moment. But in this high-stakes game of power, one thing is clear: the monarchy is in the midst of its greatest transformation in history. What comes next? Only time will tell. But whatever the outcome, Charles will be remembered as the king who had the courage to tear down the walls of tradition and build something entirely new.